And let me start doing my multimedia presentation here. I'm going to draw a picture of the Christian, what the Christian faith life looks like. It looks like that. That's what it looks like. Pretty fancy. There is the vertical relationship that believers have with God, which Luther called the kingdom or the kingdom of the right-hand kingdom, or realm, or regiment. The most common phraseology in Lutheran theology for this teaching that I'm going to talk about is the two kingdoms. But that's a little bit misleading, because if there's two kingdoms, then there's two kings. And within this doctrine, there's only one king, and that's Christ the King. So better to speak of realms or regiments. So the two realms. And the vertical relationship, well, maybe I should expand this a little bit. Here you stand. That's you, after dying. Almost. Here you stand. Here is God. I should start with God. God comes down to us through the incarnation of Christ, who is delivered to us in word and sacrament. And this impacts us in such a way that it creates and causes a response in us. It creates faith, and that faith responds in trust towards God. Trust and faith, essentially synonymous. But it also has a horizontal impact upon all those around us, because it also causes love in us toward neighbor. We see them, too, as those created in the image of God, and those for whom Christ died and rose. And so we respond to them with love in our various vocations and callings, whatever they may be. Sister, brother, husband, wife, bus driver, janitor, pastor, lawyer, whatever. We respond to our neighbor, and our neighbor is whoever is in front of us. You are my neighbors here today. And you respond with what they need. Very simple. Usually you can see what they need, usually you can tell them. If you don't, then you ask, and then you give them that. So that's love. So this is what the Christian faith life looks like. The Christian faith life is summarized by saying we live in faith towards God, in trusting faith towards God, and in love towards the neighbor. This then would be the earthly civil realm. This, the heavenly spiritual. And there's an intersection here in the life of the Christian believer and in the church. Okay. Our failures here, which are many, our failures here do not impact our standing here. This has been achieved by the death and resurrection of Christ. It is sure. We can add nothing to or take anything away from that. But neither can our successes here secure anything more here. Right? This is simply living out the Christian faith life. Remember, the sheep didn't even know. What do you mean we visited the sick and clothed the hungry and fed? What do you mean we've done these things for you? We weren't even aware of it. Exactly. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. We just live that way. We just, you know. Diana, why do Christians do good works?
Because
what do they love?
Christians.
Yeah, because they're Christians. Diana's heard me say this maybe 10 times. The Christian does good works because that's what the Christian does. Why do you guys breathe? Because you're human. You didn't breathe. You didn't set the alarm clock extra early this morning to get breathing exercise and say, I'm going to breathe better today. You just breathe. That's what humans do. Christians just do good works. Good trees produce good fruits. That's what just happens. We're not about spiritual temperature taking and always like thinking, I'm measuring. And no, that's not what it's about. It's already established. And so we can live freely here. Troubled consciences are freed to serve the neighbor. Okay, did you have a quick question? I opened the can of worms by...
Why? It brings to mind the title of the book. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Oh, wow.
Okay, now, I'm not asking that question. I'm asking you, you said, you know they're Christians by their love or by their good works. But
I don't think I said that.
No,
but it's been said.
I'm paraphrasing. But the question is, why do Christians do bad works?
We'll come back. If I haven't answered that question by the end of the presentation, let me know. Okay. But let me just say that, well, I'll come back to that. I will definitely come back to that. Let me make a note here on my last page. And we will come back to that. Yes, it's a very important, good question. Okay. All right. So, the vertical relationship is the gospel's gift of God's righteousness. It is gift, not achieved, or not initiated, or carried on, or sustained, or completed, or achieved by us. And so you have these three distinctions then, or paradoxes. Human and God's righteousness, law and gospel, and the vertical and the horizontal, or the left and the right realm, or whatever you want to call it. You have those three distinctions. And with those in place, which came forth during Luther's transitional stage and into his, what we call his early Lutheran stage, Luther then finally understood God's word and finally found peace. And thus, peace for his conscience, his troubled conscience, and joy and love for and with God. And what I want to do now is then focus a bit more on just one of those three distinctions. Not only because of its primacy, but because with a man as dominating as Luther, one subject is enough. And I just realized I've done more than one way, but I want to focus on one. Because after all, more has been written in books and articles on Martin Luther than on any other single figure in history, save Jesus Christ. And this is another part of my multimedia display. It's hard for you guys to see here, but on this table, this is part of my visual evidence of what I just said. All of these are only biographies of Luther. These are not, they're not about a specific time period. They're not books about his theology. These are just biographies. And they're not the only biographies. These are just the biographies that I own. So that's just an example. And I'm not some eminent Luther scholar. I'm just a campus pastor. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 Luther biographies. And I didn't even bring my biography that I have of his wife.
I don't think you know enough.
You don't think I don't know all this. That's just a visual display.